Hey, everybody. You got your disco shoes on? Man, I hope not. Oh, well, here we go. I'm just a troll with nothing to do, but I've got a little proposition just for you. Me and my brothers, well, we know how to groove, so if you give me some gold, I might just show you a move. I could go out and do a money quest or something, but all I really wanna do is dance. I
I can't wait for this next one. This is sweet. Really, really like the style and the mood of the track. Upbeat, loving it. It's got a really sweet driving beat to it. This is actually pretty sweet. Wow. Good groove, great percussion that drives the track along. Like I said, the beat is tight here. It's just an amazing listening experience. Dude, this is epic. This is some epic shit right here. This is amazing. Honestly, put this maybe in my top 5 of anything I've ever heard. Well, sure, I guess. What? Yes.
Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken and a student of comedy all the way in Scotland, and Wade. Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Whoa, hey, wow, okay, so...
You hear me, Wayne?
Yeah, no, hey.
Yeah, you coming through okay there? It's weird.
Yep, okay, hopefully everyone hears us.
I hear you now.
Wow, weird. You go and you set up like an episode 404 and things happen. What was that?
Yeah, all right. That was strange.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. All right, so anyhow, hey, and welcome to the show. So, yeah, hey everybody, welcome to episode 404 for Show X this week. It is 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday. What is it? September 8th, 2019. Welcome to the show, everybody. How are you doing, Ken?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad that that's all these weird technical difficulties are fixed. I'm glad that we got over that. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I'm good. How are things on your end?
No, I'm doing all right, actually. Feeling pretty good today. I have come back to, the regular life and real things again since I have been off and we weren't here last week as I was out gallivanting about doing my own thing and continuing on this, leading up to as I get into things for this week. But how about yourself, sir? You doing all right?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I've had I'm sorry, I couldn't do last week either. I was planning on doing the show, but then I entered a state of extreme panic as I was approaching some major deadlines in my life.
Crazy how that happens.
Yeah.
And, it's okay. Life comes first. That as much as we love all of you out here and trying to bring this show to you each week, at the same time, sometimes life does get in the way.
Yeah, it does indeed. So, do you want to go first today, sir? Just for a change, how about you go first?
Well, let's see. Let us kick off with a little bit of
dysfunctional deviations.
Although I do want to say, no, I'll wait on that. That's good. Yes, dysfunctional deviations this week. So, I'll get into the geek cred stuff after, as I will talk about the things that I have been doing that were geeky. Of course, Dragon Con and such, but non-geeky. Interesting in the sense that as soon as I got back from my trip to Atlanta, I came home and got everything kind of not even unpacked, but thrown into the room, took clothes, kind of got what was most soiled and tossed into laundry, and had to get packed and ready to go because the next day had to work first thing in the morning. Normally, I give myself a solid day after Dragon Con to recover because it's basically a week-long geekery.
Can see why. It's a very tiring thing being anything that social for an hour for me, never mind for a whole week.
Whew, it is something. And so normally I give myself time. However, this time, due to having roommates who were constrained on when they had to head out, we all agreed to check out Monday and come back after the event on Monday. So I got back, got settled back home. I mean, after collecting my things, car, back into the house, I was probably back at about 10 o'clock or so, 10:30 in my house, ready to get up the next morning at 5 o'clock to start work as a normal week. However, also my reason for not taking that next day off on Tuesday is because I basically I had a request from one of my friends saying that she wanted to go and celebrate the end of summer at least one time and get out of technology, life, and things, and wanted to go camping, and then threw out an invite to a bunch of people. And
God, camping in the US always terrifies the heck out of me. The idea of all the snakes and the spiders and all these things crawling all over you in the evening.
It's not nearly that bad. Anyhow, so in order to make that happen, unfortunately, she planned to do it basically in the middle of the week. And for most people, it was last minute enough they really could not manage. I looked at my schedule, I talked to my work, and they were willing to allow me to be gone for almost a week for Dragon Con, come back and work a single day, and then take off again to go disconnect in the mountains. And so I came back, I worked a whole solid day, and then came home and tried to finish getting settled after Dragon Con and taking care of the cats and things like that, to then gather all of my things to get ready to go trek into the mountains. And so I didn't really have much time to turn around tried to get everything done that night, ended up relaxing a little bit, and so didn't quite get everything packed. Spent far too long the next morning getting ready and grabbing more than I really needed. It's been some time since I've really done some camping on my own, and I wasn't aware of what she had taken up. She said she had everything, but I still was, just to be safe, kind of grabbed my stuff as well. So I knew I needed my tent, my sleeping bag, and things like that, but I wasn't sure for like cooking, and I didn't know what all she packed for food and things like that. So I made sure I had everything I would need for myself, at least, as well as some to share. So got it all packed up, finally made it up there. Didn't make it up until about 1 in the afternoon up in the mountains. But nice thing is this is up in Golden State Park, which is only about an hour drive, hour and a half from my house. So just barely into the foothills, but kind of in between Blackhawk, which is a gambling town up in the mountains a little bit, and Boulder, up in kind of northwest along the foothills, kind of in between there in Golden State Park. Went up, found her.
I'm looking at it now on Google Maps. It's a very beautiful looking area.
Yeah, really nice place. Got up there, and honestly, kind of the perfect weather time frame for it, because while it has been blazing hot for most of the summer here in Denver, it was mild going up into the mountains, where down here we were seeing anything from 80s and 90s constantly, even 80s this last week or so. Up there in the mountains, it was basically, it went from the mornings being a little cooler, 50s and such like that, up to as high as maybe in the mid 70s, never quite into the 80s, I think. So it was actually quite nice getting up a little higher altitude. I think it was, we were hanging out somewhere around 9,000 feet for where we were camping, which was nice.
Wow, looks like some clean mountain air up there.
Absolutely. Although challenges there too, and I apologize for anyone listening a little bit that's still on my, not necessarily under the weather, but I didn't get traditional con crud from being out in Dragon Con. One of the things I did suffer, though, is I was sleeping on the pull-out couch in the other room. We had a suite, and there were 5 of us there. And where I was sleeping just happened to be directly in the path of where the air conditioning vent let out. And I didn't notice it the first couple days, but essentially the blasting cold air that was on in the room the whole time was hitting my face all night when I slept. And so,
I don't know how you didn't notice that. I can't sleep in a room with like a clock because the ticking irritates me too much. I have to take the battery out. So I don't know how you managed like something blasting your face all night.
Well,
that would annoy the heck out of me.
When you go running around all day and you just pass out eventually, it happens.
Oh, yeah.
But what ended up happening, and I'm susceptible to this, is I ended up getting an ear infection, which for me manifests where I can feel it in my station tubes in my ears, and then eventually kind of it's like a cold, but it's not catching or anything like that. It's not like I have bacteria or something that's going to spread to others. So it's not traditional con crud, just more me, sniffles, coughing, things like that. But I went from there and getting basically where I felt very under the weather and having to medicate to come back to going camping right afterwards and still trying to recover. So there was a bit of that as well. Anyhow, went up there. It was so disconnected that we really didn't do a whole lot. We mostly hung around the camp. She brought her 2 dogs, which are both these giant, what are they, White Pyrenees?
Oh, brilliant.
They're
that must
huge
be great.
dogs. We basically call them small polar bears.
Yeah.
And a bit older. The older of the 2, I think, being 10 years old or such. But brought them up and took them hiking several times on some of the trails around. But otherwise, mostly hung around the camp. For me, it was an opportunity to just sit and not be doing things. Let my mind just kind of disconnect for a bit and enjoy the mountain air. I did bring some drinks, and so there was many an opportunity where I made sure to have a beverage. In fact, I have my canteen of what is the last of what I made up there and brought back. Some lovely rum and Dr. Pepper. But several drinks and such like that up, and so we spent most of the day, we'd at least go on one big hike. And even though they weren't long, because I think each hike we took one was 3 miles, one was 3.5 miles, but it's in the mountains. And so the first one was considered a difficult course. And in doing so, there was a lot of elevation change and a lot of really rocky areas that even with the pups, we had to kind of take our time getting back and forth. So each time we went out, it took us basically 2 hours to hike it. We were actually out longer than that, but I had it's great. I used a hiking app called All Trails that measured what each trail we did was. Thankfully, even though I had no service, GPS worked great. And so I was able to go through. And so the first one we did was called Snowshoe Hare Trail. Like I said, it's considered a difficult trail. It was 3.1 miles. And our average pace, to give you a setting, was about 36 minutes per mile. Right? Very the opposite if I was jogging or running or something. But the elevation up we went was 610 feet climbing. It was up and down, but of climbing feet was 610 feet. And so essentially it took us just under 2 hours to do that one.
Jeez.
And a lot of it was honestly because at the pace of the dogs, them being a little older and having to navigate, we weren't really going fast.
And so, how warm did you say it was? Was it quite warm?
That one was a bit sunny. That trail didn't have quite as many tall trees, and so it got warm. Definitely, and I'm fortunate because I took my camera bag up with me and took some shots while we were out and about. But having a backpack on, it's a nice one because it has a Camelback or bladder in it, so I can carry 2 liters of water with me.
Well, it's funny you say that because when you said you brought your camera bag and did shots, I didn't realize you for some reason my mind went to you brought alcoholic beverages and you're shotting them from your camera bag. And I was like, well, that'll keep you somewhat hydrated.
No.
You probably won't notice that you're dehydrated.
that will not keep you hydrated. That would be the opposite and terrible. No, what it was is I had the water with me and stuff, but I took pictures as kind of walking around stuff, just an opportunity to take some different kind of photography than I normally do, a little more landscape and outdoorsy type stuff, so that was fun. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, we went and did Raccoon Trail, which starts from an overlook area. Considered a more moderate trail, less overall feet, and the total distance in that was supposed to be a little farther. It's supposed to be 3.5 miles. I think I missed some of it on my app, because it's saying only about 3 miles, but we did that one a bit faster than the previous case. Nice thing is it was moderate in the sense that it did have some pretty, like the first trail going down was all rocks and pretty darn steep, trying not to fall. But then it leveled out and actually opened up to a pretty wide road that seemed to be like a service road or something. And between really tall trees, a bunch of aspens and things like that. And so it was very well shaded. And so we were able to do a good portion of it just on this very gentle, almost level walk essentially through a big portion of it. And then like 3/4 of the way, there was a big uphill to kind of, get back up to where the right height was. That one was pretty brutal. But then from there, it leveled off to the end. So it was actually a really nice walk, that one. So mostly we did those during the day, each day. The rest of the time was spent making food and just kind of hanging out. We played cards. Actually, I should go through my videos at one point because one of the things that she does is she's working to be a model and an actor. And so in that, we went and did, she had brought a whole box. I think one of her parents is a teacher and doing some things, as well as this work she's done over the years. But we brought up a box of just paper that we could use as starter for fires, because there was a nice fire pit at each of the camping sites. And some of it was old homework that she and her siblings had done.
Cool.
And in
Must
it
be
there
kind of
were...
a nice thing to burn.
Well, yeah, so she's getting rid of some stuff, but some of that was essentially scripts that she had done for either one acts or things like that, or kind of monologues that she had learned. And so we just, and this might have been alcohol-induced, but we spent some time where we would just pick up a page, read a line of it, and be like, all right, do it. And I kept it on camera, and we recorded ourselves doing these monologues back and forth.
That's
of
fun.
These various things. That one was, that was entertaining. I have not looked back through it, but that was one of the things we did. Just, stuff like that. It was, so just things to pass the time. We also played cards a bunch, kind of introduced each other to different card games that we could remember. One of the challenges of not having the internet available to us at the campsite was I knew a lot of things I remembered by name, where I was like, oh yeah, this game, right? Da-da. And I was just like, crud. How do you actually play that game? And I could not figure it out, right? Just so many times I was like, nope, don't know. So yeah, there was a bunch of challenge with that as well, but it was a good time. It was nice to get away and just kind of enjoy nature. Now, we did suffer a little bit where it was cooler each night, not terrible. Fires were fine, except I will tell you today still, I think I may have mostly got rid of it, but my hair was smelling like campfire smoke. Because we were, go figure, you make a fire and it seems like the wind forces it to follow the smoke to always follow you. And so I ate campfire smoke for several nights in a row.
It's the law of physics. That's how
It
smoke
is
works. It
one of the-
follows your
yes.
lungs.
It specifically targets and follows you. It has nothing to do with nature and the wind. But anyhow, we got that going. And what else I was going to say? So mostly weather's fine. We did suffer the last night. So Friday evening going into Saturday, where apparently this massive storm came through. And each night we had maybe moments where it rained a little bit, and you could see the clouds come in, and you're right up there in the mountains, so they're kind of coming right through with you. But apparently it hit really hard that last night, and it was late enough that we weren't really sure what was going on. We were just starting a fire, and then this rain started hitting. And while it was still sunny, it started coming down hard enough that it started hailing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was fortunate because my camping mate took the time and was knowledgeable. Actually, used to camp a lot as a Girl Scout, apparently. Had a canopy set up, one of those portable canopies, and set it up over the picnic table kind of thing they had set up at the camp. So we were able to mostly just huddle under there and be fine, and there's enough room for the dogs to sit underneath the table and things like that. So that was pretty good. And so we got to observe a lot of the storm. But it did get to a point where it was time to go to bed, and we're just like, man, and we had to go through the rain and get a little wet with all that. But I had people check in on me the last, the last week or so doing, did you guys get hit? Were you okay? Kind of thing. And so
Right.
did get that as well. So yeah, it was nutty, but it was a good time. It was nice to get away. By the time we came back, I was ready to come back. And then got back to town. Oh, I was going to say, I was proud, put in my notes, of the food I made for camping. Because I pre-set up, part of the reason it took me so long is I prepped meals ready to go, so that all I need to do is throw them in a pan and let them heat, kind of thing. And so I had roasted or baked some potatoes, some red potatoes and stuff like that, and was seasoning chives and all the stuff on them so they're ready to go. Put them in a bag or in foil, and they just have to be thrown either on the fire or on a skillet. I set up like this neat blend of a mac and cheese that was meant for like easy mac and cheese. Just pre-cook the macaroni and then put a bunch of different types of cheese and Alfredo sauce, stuff like that all together. Came out lovely. She had brought some chicken and some teriyaki and orange sauces that we made up at different times, and they surprisingly cooked really well. We cooked those in the fire. That went really well. And then with the peach cobbler I made, because for me, camping peach cobbler is just a thing. Made a biscuit.
Sure.
mix
I've
that I
never
did.
had it. What exactly is cobbler?
So peach cobbler is essentially, and there's lots of variations how to make it. Imagine taking some type of fruit or multiple fruits and setting them in their own kind of juice, add a little bit of maybe water or something like that with it, and boil it down so it's kind of sweet. Add some sugar to that so that it boils into kind of a sweet, warm fruit mixture.
Okay.
And then think of a pie, but it's very specific to that. And then on top of it, putting what would be bread, like biscuit mix, American biscuit. So like a light dough.
Sounds like the kind of thing that's quite tough to do when camping. It sounds like baking so far to me.
Well, so it can be. So the way I did it, and it mostly worked out, it works better if you have a Dutch oven. But I just did it with the one thing I brought with me, or the one thing I used, was an iron skillet that I had gotten the previous year when I got camping in North Carolina for my ninja work. And I kept it, and I actually did some research like, all right, how to use an iron skillet correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading up on it. It was a cast iron one. I was like, oh, this is how you maintain it. Sweet. It's supposed to be non-stick as long as you put it oiled correctly. And so did all that, got all run, and boom, it worked.
Wow, nice.
To
Good
make
thing
it
to have.
to make it work well, go figure, right? It's what old prospectors and stuff like that used to do all the time.
Right.
And so with that, did you pay the gold price for the iron skillet? Nice handle. But no, I basically set up the whole mixture in that, and you dollop the dough on top, and then I created a bit of a opening above it with aluminum foil to keep the heat in, to allow the dough a place to rise and bake and keep the heat from the pan. And it mostly worked. If I had kept it a little higher, it would have been even better. But that was the way I did it since I don't own a Dutch oven. It actually worked out fairly well. My challenge being is I made far too much dough and did not really comprehend how much it was going to raise, because I was like, oh, I'll just cover the thing. And the dough cooked up so it was probably twice the thickness of the layer of fruit. And so
Okay.
I have leftovers, and what I'm going to do is end up prepping more fruit to put with it to be able to to balance that out. And yes, Earth, I agree, because we used to, when our parents would take us camping stuff, one of the things we'd almost always make as dessert when we went out camping was a peach cobbler. So that was good times. Copy, you're going to have to you're going to have to give us more details, because I had forgotten when the exact timing was for the convention you were going to down in Florida, and so we need to like sync and hear your stories as well as I.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be interested to hear.
All right, the other thing I wanted to share that wasn't as geek or not in the same way this one is that I treated myself last night. So after coming back from camping yesterday morning or afternoon, getting settled, showering, kind of getting things together, throwing clothes in the laundry from both Dragon Con and from camping, trying to get myself settled, realizing that I was still somehow exhausted. I think getting over a little bit of the sickness and all that, I decided I wanted to treat myself one step further. I had let people know of this ahead of time several times, but nobody responded and nobody joined me. But at our local theater for where our symphony plays here in Denver, I can't say it right, it's like the Botcher Theater or something. We had a one-night performance by Bobby McFerrin, who came through to do a show. And I don't know how well you're aware of him, Ken, as an artist and such. Most people only really know of him from what he came out with. Gosh, what was it, Earth Weaver in the 80s? His song, Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Don't worry.
Yep.
That one?
Yep.
Really?
That was him. That was him way back. Now, the funny thing is, that is what... Oh, see, okay, copy. I thought that this time was also a convention tied into meeting the Phantasy Star people. I knew you were going out there, but I thought it was actually a con as well. Anyhow, yes, nice, Hando. Don't Worry, Be Nerdy. It was, so Don't Worry, Be Happy is the song that most people know from Bobby McFerrin. What they don't often know about the song is that was all done basically a cappella. I think he did 7 tracks overlaid of his own voice to do it, but when people hear it, they think it's normal instrumentation.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Thing about Bobby is he is famous, and I'd have to look it up to be sure about it, but for having essentially perfect pitch and tone to his voice.
I can see why, yeah.
That you can actually tune instruments from him because of how pure his voice is and his massive range and things like that. Well, after doing, and I'm sure Earth is sharing videos, multiple opportunities of things from Mr. McFerrin and things he's done, because he has done so many. But with it, he... and I'm getting your... why in DVI? Your video for me is doing it's deciding to resize itself randomly. It's so weird. Anyhow,
that's clearly the better way to do it is whatever way it's deciding now.
It is completely just saying, I'm going to go this, I'm going to go that. I don't know what it's doing. You're being small, you're being big. It's 404, what do you expect? Problem is, if I touch it and I try to change it, it's going to adjust itself. See, I'll try to like bring it out, and then it's going to go massive on me again. It'll resize itself and say, nope, I'm going to be huge. Anyhow, until that happens. But it's... Oh, hopefully, if he didn't do it, he might have done one of the clips of what he's been doing since. So Bobby McFerrin didn't release a whole lot of like traditional songs and what people would expect to hear of just regular music and stuff. Instead, he realized he just really enjoys voice. The voice is an instrument. And so in doing so, he plays with music in the sense of just how he can sing things and such. And so for years now, he has not done traditional concerts. Instead, what he does is he basically plays with voice. He brings other singers out with him that have their range. He can kind of do everything, but in this case, he brought out 4 other singers, someone who is a soprano, someone who is an alto, a tenor, and a bass. And the tenor and bass also kind of went back and forth between, I think the tenor also did beatboxing a little bit to kind of give it a drum effect and things like that with some of the songs. And so they came out, and what they do, he kind of described it as doing singing in, or what did he say? It was a circle, essentially a circle sing, where he'll start with some type of rhythm, some song, some vocal noise that he's doing, and just kind of play with whatever it sounded like, a little bit of, and in fact, it was described in a lot of ways to be almost like, not ska, oh shoot, I was just talking about it earlier today, where you just kind of constantly go like beep 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 bop bop ba da ba.
Oh shoot.
Right? Scat. Thank you. Right as Earth Weaver types it too. But basically, he does
Oh.
scat. And so he'll just start playing with his voice. And then what he's really good about is he will start feeding that whatever he comes up with to other members on stage with him. In this case, the 4 members he brought, who also played with just random ways of playing with song and harmonizing and doing things together, as well as the chorus that normally sings along with the symphony. They came out, and he would do things where he would get a piece of them to do just one thing. Bop, 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 and just have them keep going. And then he would go to the next part and start doing another harmony there where it's like, ba, ba, ha, ha, da, ha, and just kind of keep going, and then get it to the point where a whole group of the chorus is doing different things, and you hear the song blending and kind of feeding in and out. And then he, once he would get the background going, would start playing with his own voice. And then the rest of the group that his main 4 on with him would also start just adding wherever they felt it was appropriate. And so it was just really neat to experience the way he just plays with music, with sound and things like that. He's also really big on, and in our case, he did a little bit of it, of audience interaction. Because he has found where, even if you're not trained in singing, everyone understands some basic concepts and things. And so he would do that same thing with different sections of the audience, getting one part to kind of do one rhythmic thing. One group to just start stomping their feet in a tune with a snap in between or something like that. And then continuing on where as he's doing that, adding in someone else going, yada yada, yada yada.
Wow.
Yada
That's
yada.
musical brilliance from the songs.
And
That's
just
true genius.
playing with it, right? And so he would go back and forth, just kind of playing with what everybody was doing together. And so that was a lot of fun, at least for me. Hearing it, now granted, the nice thing is I was aware ahead of what I was getting into that this is what he does, right? My brother and I, Earthweaver and I, have shared back and forth like examples where we've seen him do some really neat things and getting the audience to play along. What was interesting to me is the people around me, we left with just huge grins on our face. We were so smiling and happy to have experienced this, and just in awe sometimes of just how the voice and how the vocals and stuff came out, not just from him, but everyone in the room.
Sure.
I had taken the opportunity to take public transportation down and back so I wouldn't have to park on a Saturday night downtown. And it was just me, so it's more cost effective that way. On the train ride back, there were a couple other people I could tell that were at the concert with me as well. What was odd to me, there was one guy who I would classify as being a bit younger than me, maybe in his late 20s, who had also gone to the concert, seen it, but the people he was sitting with who hadn't gone, he was basically just complaining about the experience he had had with the Bobby McFerrin concert. Saying that, and he was trying to say that he felt like Bobby was too high to perform, I think is how he said it. And I so wanted, I don't know, I didn't engage with him, didn't feel the need. He annoyed me a bit because he was kind of taking away my buzz, having me read that little bit of, he was so against what he had experienced that it was almost like questioning whether I enjoyed what I saw, but I knew I had. And so I turned and was trying to focus away from him on another group who was sharing their enjoyment of it.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And essentially what I got out of it is that he did not know what he was getting into. Must not have researched or saw anything. I'm assuming at best he maybe knew Bobby McFerrin from him having done things back in the day and it being, things like just don't worry, be happy or something. And maybe that was all of his experience with what things Bobby had done in the past. I don't know. I really don't. But it was something that it bothered me because he just was so open about trying to tell others that hadn't gone to the concert how poor the experience was. And I really felt like he just didn't get it, right? Not that I'm better than him in any way or something like that, but I really felt like he set himself up for failure. That he didn't take the time to understand who he was going to say. And he kind of mentioned that it was a last-minute thing.
So you're actually reminding me very much of a quote that I heard for the first time this week. Let me just see if I can find the exact quote. Here it is. If you choose not to find joy in the snow, you will have less joy in your life but there's still the same amount of snow.
Ha!
Right? Like, and it's a very stoic belief, but that's from Taoism. And I think that's very, very apt for this kind of situation, right? He went to this concert, it wasn't what he expected, and he's moaning about it. Instead, what you should be saying is, I went to this concert, I've now been, I can't change the fact that I've been, what did I enjoy about it? Maybe I could learn in the future not to go to these concerts if I didn't enjoy as much as I thought I would. But, it's not even being optimistic, it's being realistic and focusing on the best parts, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a better approach.
It's the adage that we are all, none of us can necessarily control the things that we have to experience, but we can all control how we react to whatever it is we experience. That is the thing that is solely and absolutely in our control. And so you can choose to allow something to annoy you versus excite you or entertain you. You can choose to go into something and find the good in it, or you can choose to focus on the things that maybe weren't so good. And that is solely on each individual. Yes, there are things that will absolutely suck, and there's things that you would like to have better, but you can still at least take what you can from those bad experiences and turn them about to be as good as they can. That's on you. I will say, and this is kind of a side note, I won't go into the details of it because I still need to finish it out. One of the things that I did do during the camping trip, and it reminds me of having seen the concert because I added to it, is I started making a list, and I've been wanting to do this for so long, of all of the bands I have seen in person live. All the different musical acts and things like that I have gone to that are legitimately not just someone's recital, but actually noted bands or groups that are out there. And I need to refine some of it because I was struggling just off memory. I need to go back and look at a few tickets I might have or some festival events. But so far, I am up to 57 different bands that I have seen live. And
wow, dude.
I'm realizing that may be a decent number.
That's a very good number.
Because I've always gone back and forth and realized that there's been certain concerts I just remembered a few that I had forgotten. One of the big ones I forgot. I went and saw Prince before he passed. But that's the thing.
Forgetting that you'd seen Prince. Wow.
Well, okay, but some on my list, and Earthweaver will know some of this because it goes way back in the day. Like the first one, I tried to initially do it chronologically, but I realized at some point I just needed to get things off my head.
Problem is we don't think chronologically, I don't think.
Well, I just going back from when I remember seeing things. Darn it. So one of the first ones I remember seeing, it took me forever to remember this band, because Earthweaver and I saw it in a high school gym. I'm pretty sure is where we first saw it. But it was All for One. Old boy band from the early 90s. And I'm pretty sure we saw them before as a family. We went and saw Boyz II Men back in their heyday. But other ones on the group was like TLC, and then I had a whole gap other ones because I was starting to remember other ones. But it's like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Little Richard, CCR, Kool and the Gang, Stevie Wonder. I'm pretty sure it was Stevie Wonder or not. Yeah, I thought, right, Joe? Earth, we saw that, right? I didn't see Beach Boys, did we? Anyhow, so that's the thing. I need to collaborate with others. Like I said, Alanis Morissette, Charles Mingus Big Band, Metallica, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Bette Midler, Pink, Jewel, LMFAO, Far East Movement, The Cure, Green Day, No Doubt, Weezer, Halsey, Paramore, Nine Inch Nails, Rob Bass, Weird Al, Bloodhound Gang, MGMT, Lindsey Sterling, Garfunkel Notes, Ice Cube with NWA, Snoop Dogg, Bootsy Collins, Tenacious D, Iggy Pop, Coheed and Cambridge, Gwar, Jackal, Dickerson, Celine Dion, Run DMC, Rancid, Cybertronic Spree, Voltaire, Steam Powered Giraffe, Mindless Self-Indulgence, Guns N' Roses, Bass Nectar, Duran Gray, Die Antwoord, Double Clicks, Molly Lewis, Beck, Black Tiger Sex Machine, Bobby McFerrin, Flux Pavilion, Prince. Those are the ones that are currently on my list. So I don't remember. Did we see Ray Charles, Earthweaver? Because I don't remember that. And I don't remember Beach Boys, although we likely did. So, but yeah, there's just bunches of these that I have seen throughout the years, and I'm kind of like, yeah. So that's my current list. And I hope to continue to make it better and better as I go on. So
that's pretty damn cool, dude.
It is where I started to realize again, or double appreciate how much I like live music. Like, it really is a really cool thing for me.
Yeah, and that's neat because you say that well, that's the thing, right? You say you love it and you say you enjoy it, and I think there's some proof to the pie there. You've gone out and spent how many hours per gig, right? That's hundreds of hours you spent doing the thing that you love, if not thousands, and that's great.
It has been a bit. And there's still some intro bands and stuff like that. Some of these I can't remember. I know I've been to some others that I'm trying to like whichever group, I'm pretty sure whichever group did Black Hole Sun, I thought I saw. But maybe it wasn't them. Crud. There's another one I've seen, because I've seen a couple at Red Rocks where I was kind of like, I know I've seen other groups here. Darn it. I need to go back through ticket stubs. Because I made a mistake, and I saw this done by someone way back in the day, and I don't know how others do. Some of the ways, is it worth, ways you memorialize events you've done, things you've enjoyed? And I've realized I've wanted to, but it's too late to capture some of the old ones. I've seen people keep like a shadow box or something where they kept every ticket stub from concerts in it.
I've seen people do it with like wall corkboard sort of things, and they have like all the tickets over it.
Yeah, and I started thinking like, man, I really should have done that. I just never thought about it, because there's so many bands I've seen that when I think back, like, that was a heck of a concert. That was so good.
Well, dude, if you want to do that, nothing's stopping you. You don't need to use the original tickets. Just maybe put up like make your own version of it. Maybe you have some photos that you have from these events.
And I've kept some.
Maybe you can maybe you could do like a timeline, a chronology, and then have like a picture from each one over the years, and you'd be like, oh my god, yeah, that's cool. I remember in 1997 when I went and saw this band. That's pretty cool, right?
Well, and that's part of it. It's because there are moments when I do think back to the events I saw. I was like, whoa, that was right. That thing was epic because XYZ, right? Whatever the case might have been. And so I need to continue to look through these and just expand my list. But with my Brothers Earth help right there, and I still question the Beach Boys one, brother of mine. I don't recall that off the top of my head, but if so, that would put me at 60 bands I've listed so far. And I know there's more from the bigger festivals I've gone to. Anyhow, that was just some random thing I did over the weekend too, where I was finally trying to put it down on paper, or in digital form at least, a list of bands I recall having seen in person. And I hope to just continue that list. And it doesn't count the number of times I've seen some, because I've seen The Cure like 5 or 6 times now. But it's still... Anyhow, all right, I'm done. That is my non-geek and what I've been doing this last couple weeks, doing things. Ken, I think it's time to set it off to you, but I think I should say it better than that. So, Doctor... Please, fill us in what you've been doing most recently, Dr. Reed.
Sure thing, Doc Dad. That's kind of one of my biggest things that I need to speak about, and I should probably jump into first. The reason that I wasn't here last week was because Sunday evening to be honest, the past couple of weeks I've been having not panic attacks, but it felt like one consistent long panic attack. Because even now, 6 days after I passed my Viva, it still feels imposter syndrome is a thing that will never go away, right? Especially when you get a recognized achievement, a recognized degree like that, where experts and professionals in the field have said that I am worthy of the title. I still feel like there's some mistake, and somebody's going to find out, and somebody's going to look through something I've written and be like, clearly this guy's a moron. Why did we give him oh my god, why did he even get his first degree? He shouldn't even pass high school. Who is this guy? Like, that's going to happen one day, I'm fairly certain. And it's like that imposter syndrome is something that everybody experiences when they achieve something, right? And so for the past few weeks, I've been panicking, trying to spend as much time as I can revising my own research, making sure that it was right. Finding well, actually, that's not even true. Not making sure it's right, making sure I found all the errors, and there was a lot of them, right? Like going through all the past works I've done, including published works. You find problems, and you're like, how did that get published? Like, it's like I went through a panel of experts. How they must have accidentally ticked the wrong box or something, right? It's that imposter syndrome as well. But the truth of it is, as much as we aim for scientific theory to be this bastion of perfection and there's no error, in reality, especially for a young researcher, you're human in the end. We're not going to produce perfection. And it's kind of a scary realization that science is not some bastion of perfect knowledge. It's full of contrary information, mixed results, and errors in the results and in the original hypotheses and so on. And that's that's helpful to once I stepped out of my Viva, which by the way was about 4 hours of them asking me questions and going page by page, line by line, saying why did you say this, why did you choose that, that doesn't make sense when you refer back to the thing you said earlier, and all this stuff, right? After I stepped out of that, I felt like such an idiot, right? I stepped out there thinking like, man, they asked me questions that like a first year PhD should be able to answer, and I didn't answer correctly, right?
No.
Like that sort of stuff happens, and I think that's really important because you know what? I learned so goddamn much on Monday. I learned more than I have in months on Monday, possibly even the past year.
Okay.
Because it never again will a panel of experts sit down with me and look over 4 years of my work and tell me exactly what I'm missing out, what I should have done, what I should have done better, and making me defend the parts that I did do right. And I've learned, like I thought I was doing all right. I have 3 publications. One's in a fairly good conference, which is one of the best ones in my field, and I was really proud of that. That was earlier this year, and I thought, yeah, I'm on a good trajectory. Things are going well. I know my stuff. I must know my stuff, right? I must do. And they sort of pointed out, oh, no, you are a very young researcher. You are early career, and here's why. And I was like, yeah, I got a lot to learn. And the neat thing is, even in the weeks since then, the work I've done for my job that is research but on a different project, it's been of a higher quality because I've realized there's lots of little things that I've been doing that I can improve on, and I was taking things for granted and making decisions without properly checking what other people have done and just stuff like that, right? And yeah, anyway, my point is I've learned a lot from this. I expected, if you asked me 4 years ago, what would your feelings be after you finish and you get your doctorate, you get your Viva pass? I would say obviously it'll be elation, it'll be extreme excitement, I'll be happy. And the truth is, I didn't walk out there going, yay! I walked out there with, there was obviously I was very excited and happy, and I was full of joy. I was also completely I was grieving. I was grieving my own image of myself that very morning, right?
Interesting.
Of what I thought I knew and how good I thought I was as a researcher. That guy died, right? He walked into that for 4 hours and got torn to pieces in a good way, right? But he got taken down, and he should have, because he clearly was egotistical, right? He thought too grandiosely of himself, and he had too high an opinion of his own work. And in the end, I was not doing good. I was not working correctly for the body of science with that mindset. And I've now learned better. So yeah, I walked out there in a. If you took the extreme joy and the extreme grief that I felt at the same time, put them together, I would be in a form of neutrality. But it wasn't together. I felt both these extremes at once. I put up some pictures and videos of after my Viva, and you'll see I was crying in a couple of them. Because there is every Viva there's a post Viva celebration. So the department kind of gets together. There's some champagne and there's some cake and stuff, donuts, whatever. And it was mostly from pride and joy and shame, I guess, in some respects. Because I did the same. I did my PhD at the same university I did my undergrad.
Okay.
So the people who were coming over and congratulating me were my first ever lecturers in computing science, right? These are the guys and the girls who came over to me and said, "Congratulations, Dr. Reed," but they're also doctors. And I was like, "Oh my God." I am technically on that, like I'm at the very bottom of their level, but I'm in that level, right? I'm in the club almost, right? I'm one of you guys. Like, and I admire these people, like these guys are researchers and they know their stuff, and they have these solid practices of producing good work for the field and for the good of humanity. And for them to congratulate and shake my hand and greet me with the title that they themselves have, that was something special. And every time that happened, I had to hold back like a string of tears, honestly. And there's like 20 lecturers in my department, so every one of them that came over and said it, I was like, "Oh no, don't say it, don't say the title, just don't say it, just don't say it. I just can't do it." And there's a video of me that I posted online that one of my friends sent me, we just finished the celebrations and we're going back to our shared office. And I walked into the office and they were all standing outside because we're going in to get some coffee. And they said, "Hey, Ken, turn around." I was like, "What?" I turned back around and came back through the door that I just went past. And they pointed at the sign on the door. And I realized that when I was in my Viva, they swapped over the Ken Reed to Dr. Ken Reed. And seeing that on the... Oh, God, I'm tearing up a little bit thinking about it.
Hey!
Seeing that on the door was... that was just...
That video, you could absolutely
It's a bright
see. You could see you get caught right there for that moment where it hits you. Well, again, I think it's that, and I think it's appropriate, the kind of elation you're feeling from it, because it is the culmination of all this effort of things you've been working on for so long, and to be recognized by people who deservingly can recognize you in it. I think that matters. And so I think it is absolutely appropriate for you to feel good about that and get a little choked up. It was interesting seeing so many photos come out with you basically in suit and tie, all dressed up to the T's throughout the last week, doing all of this. So that was entertaining for me.
Yeah, so I bought got a little tear in my face. So I bought a new suit on Sunday, a week ago today. My first ever 3-piece suit I've owned. It's because the chair of the Viva committee, I asked him beforehand, like, what are you going to wear? He said, I'm going to wear my suit. And I was like, well, I'm not going to show up. I've got like 3 suits, right? But none of them fit me anymore. 2, they were never made for me. They were secondhand from charity shops. Yep. I've never been able to afford a nice suit, So yeah, I went out and I actually spent some real money on a nice suit that'll last a few years. And I wore that to my Viva. It was a very special occasion, and I still can't quite get around my head. So the way it officially works, yes, I can now use the title Doctor in an unofficial capacity. Like I have it on a couple of online profiles now. I have it on my door at work, and if I'm getting introduced to a lecture, and speaking of which, I'm doing a lecture next week.
Hey.
It'll be my first doctoral lecture, right? So I'm looking forward to introducing myself with my full title for the first time. That'll be nice. It's been a crazy past week with that stuff. But the good thing about this is this means that Michigan is a go. It's no longer. I already had the offer and I signed it, but the offer said, stipulated, assuming you pass your degree, right? You can't go do research if you're not a doctor there. So that means that was the last major checkpoint that we were waiting on. That's the big tick. So I'm meeting with the representatives from Michigan next week, and we're going to talk about that. So it looks like I'll be planning plane tickets for next month.
Nice.
To fly over. Yeah. Also, we're going to be organizing a leaving do. You're obviously welcome, Mr. Wayne.
Oh God. Can I fly over to Scotland to help you say goodbye to Scotland to then start the process of welcoming you to the United States?
Yes, exactly. You're
that
of course
would be
welcome.
completely financially responsible of me.
So it's called. What are we calling it actually? Let me see the official title of it. The Speakeasy. We're calling it our Speakeasy. So we're gonna have a 1920s kind of Prohibition era themed party. We're all gonna wear our suits and stuff, and it'll be nice. And that's the plans for sometime next month. We're gonna have that party.
Nice.
We're not planning on having a big one. We're planning on having there's a few friend groups that we're not inviting because we want to do separate stuff with them. So
Makes
it's not
sense.
a malicious thing. It's just we
Not
don't have much space, right?
Not a slight on them, but yes, the opportunity.
Yeah, it's like we will do our own things, but we're doing separate.
Come on,
goodbyes.
it's like having larger events like weddings and things like that, right? Where if you invite everybody at once, you never have time to spend it with anybody, right?
Yeah.
And so I think especially because it's going to be you being less accessible in the near future, taking time with individual groups will be really special. Now, I will say, Ken, maybe, although gosh, it would be, don't tempt me like this, sir. Don't tempt me. I have promised myself I'm not flying anywhere else this year because I'm trying to save money because I just got caught up on my major bills for the year. Stop tempting me.
Oh, well done. I'm glad to hear that.
or at least on the path to everything, right? Getting paid for the room for this last convention at Dragon Con is my last major hurdle to get the credit card, like, no longer melting in my pocket. Yeah. So, with that in mind, maybe the more responsible thing is if I were to plan to welcome you to the States, then to
you are
help
more
you do
than
a
welcome to do
send-off
so.
from Scotland. Although, man, I would love to see all those guys.
Yeah, I think the easiest. Well, I think my plan is to arrive sometime late October. Like I said, it depends on flights and stuff. I'm gonna have 1 week there where I need to settle in, make sure I get a bank account set up so I can get paid.
Little things.
I need to make sure that I have access to a mobile phone. I need to get Wi-Fi set up and wherever I live. I need to work out how I'm going to do laundry and stuff wherever I end up living, where nearby supermarkets are. I need to think about transport, learning about public transport. It's going to be like an adventure learning all this
God,
stuff.
there's going to be no public transport where you're going, sir.
Oh, well, actually, Lansing, I've been reading, has...
There will, but plan to get a car.
Oh, no, of course. That's the other thing. I need to look at working out how to get a license. Like, what's the transitory period?
And you should be able,
Yeah.
We'll have to keep talking about that because maybe I can do some preemptive hunting for you. And maybe your real trip is that you come visit me to come pick up your car and road trip it back. But
oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Because I may or may not am hosting a Halloween party on the first. I think it's the Friday after Halloween. If you were to want to come out and meet with people in this area. That sounds cool,
but that would probably be within a day or two of me arriving, so I'll probably be panicking about getting everything ready at that stage.
No, fair. We will plan for later holiday things. I will throw it out there.
Plus,
just like I don't think you'll make this coming weekend's Game Fest.
Probably not.
But expect in about 3 months is when I'll be hosting my next one after that.
Well, give me a date, and we can start thinking about that. That's not a crazy idea.
Oh, it could be our. Wait, that would be what, our third ever official in the same room show?
Yeah, it would be. And Game Fest's a good one to do it on. So the upcoming holidays that I'll be in the US for will be Halloween, but like I said, I don't plan to do. I'm probably gonna walk around and see. I'm gonna walk around and see what everybody else is doing and enjoy that. That's gonna be cool just to see that.
Just come in as a proper Scotsman and you'll be fine.
That's a terrible idea because that's one way to say, "Look at me, I'm not one of you."
But in Halloween,
I'm gonna try to blend in.
But in Halloween, everyone would be like, "Hey, that's awesome." You're like, "Yeah, it's real."
That's true. There's also, guys don't do Guy Fawkes, of course. That's the 5th of November. We would celebrate that here.
Not legitimately. We kind of nod our head, and some people maybe grab masks, but it's not like a true holiday here.
Okay. But there's Thanksgiving on the 23rd, right?
Whatever that fourth Thursday is.
Yeah. Was it the Thursday? I've got it down as a Saturday.
No,
Thursday.
Thanksgiving is always the fourth Thursday of the month officially? But it's always a Thursday, is Thanksgiving.
The 4th, that means it'll have to be the 28th then.
That would sound correct. So, but yes, it's always Thursday.
All right, okay. Cool. That's something else I want to think about. I want to see if maybe I can find a workmate for that one. I don't know. And then, sadly, I'm missing out on Kittens, but she's got a big birthday this year, so I'm sad to be missing that. There's a few things I need to think about with that, but that's all fine. So for my leaving do, I was saying that party. I've been trying to learn a song. It's actually quite easy to play on guitar, but I don't sing, so I can't sing. I can sing. Like, everybody can sing, right? I can do it. But put it this way.
I don't know. People have told me not to sing, right?
Well, as you know, when I sing a karaoke, they turn off my microphone, right?
I feel your pain.
The backing vocals handle that one. Yeah. So, I need to think about. I've been trying to learn the song called "Michigan and Again" by the Accidentals.
Nice.
It's a beautiful, beautiful song, and let me actually read out some of the lyrics here, because I've become in recent years. I've become a bit more in touch with my own ability to cry and my own emotions. As you can tell by the fact that I cried at least once in the past week.
Which by all means is like way more than any Scotsman is really allowed to legally cry. So, I mean, Ken's pushing it.
That's true.
I think he's only allowed because of your having an American wife. I think that's the only reason you've been allowed as much as you have.
we have strict toxic masculinity requirements here. So yeah. But the lyrics. Let me see. Okay, here's some of my favorite parts. Great state, what state am I in? Compass roses bloom again. Home of the water, Canada's daughter. Cradled in a crescent moon grin. Michigan and again and again and again. So it's all about this, like, for me, that's like a realization of Michigan. I'm going there literally. What state am I in? Where am I? And it also has this other part. Where is it? When I came home, I came down to the lake. My dad told me he counts up the days. And that makes me think of the fact that my dad has said that to me. He is counting down, like, I can't believe you're leaving. And he's been saying to me, he's really, it's breaking my parents' heart now that we're leaving. And when I packed up my bags, coffee stains of jet lag, there were conifers lining the driveway whispering, stay, stay, stay. And it's just touching to me. So I think that's a very appropriate song for me to learn. I've asked a couple of my more musical friends who actually have more talent than me, which is not hard, to play it with me at least, so that I can at least maybe just play guitar and get them to sing or something, and that way I won't burst into tears during it as well. So that's something I've been working on. Yesterday, you said there's lots of photos of me in a suit. That's because yesterday, and I'm actually quite hungover from it. Myself, Graham, and Stuart was there actually as well, and a whole bunch of other people that we know went out for what's called wetting the baby's head in Edinburgh yesterday.
Wait. Okay, I'm digesting that because that sounds awful in so many ways.
It means we are getting drunk to celebrate a newborn.
Okay.
So one of our friends has recently had a child, and we were celebrating this by getting drunk, which is very much how we celebrate.
Sounds appropriate,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean, that's always how you celebrate any occasion.
Of course, I am Scottish. So yeah, that's what I was doing. And we got very drunk. We went to lots of different pubs, and we had a really good time. I managed to prevent 2 fights.
Nice.
2 fights.
Good.
Yeah, because it seemed. I think I've worked it out, and the reason why every time that me and Graham go out to Edinburgh, there seems to always be a fight or a potential fight, and the reason for it is because we are young men who are drinking, and people see that as like tribalism. Let's go have a bit of fun.
There are people who see physical, conflict as fun. They use that as entertainment, and thus will work to make that happen. I've seen it many times, unfortunately. Not something I'm a fan of. I don't like to fight. I think it's silly at best. And so I never support that activity. But I have definitely seen interactions where people do, where they're actively trying to make things like that happen. Bothers me every time, not people I want to be around.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, actually, just in general, of when we were hanging out in kind of, what is it, your parents' hometown or such? And I just remember being there, you mentioning, like, hey, so, Wayne, you know how you like to dance? Don't do that here. Because someone will punch you. And so it's funny because you say Edinburgh, right? Where,
and that makes me sad you even having to say that, right? Because it's a thing, yeah. So it's a thing that's in my mind. It's so deep in my culture here that I recognize. I don't know how to explain this. Like, imagine I was a zombie, right? But I didn't like my zombie traits, and I recognized when I felt that hunger, and I would hold it down, and I'd say, "No, stop it!" Right? That's what it feels like when I see somebody do. Like, if you were here dancing, I could recognize as a representative of this culture, you are doing something that is different than here. We don't like that, right? And people would get upset about that and could take that as are you trying to show off? I'm going to kick your face in, right? And it's horrible. It's just it's a thing to do with it is a very toxic masculine thing here. Like, the young men, if you act out of line and you're different to everybody else, then you're going to get your face kicked in because that you're the one that's being different. It's your own fault for being different, right? Even if it's a physical trait that you're born with or something. Like, people are assholes that way, and that's the problem. But I find that the way that affects me the most, and the way that I struggle with that mindset that is built into me, is when it comes to, like, I love having hobbies. I love playing guitar. I like photography. I like playing video games. I like watching Dragon Ball Z. I remember when I was a kid, people at my school when I was like 10 years old would like try to like bully the crap out of me and say, "Oh my God, you big gay boy! How dare you be watching Dragon Ball Z? Because clearly that means that you like men or something." I was like, I don't understand the logic there, but apparently I need to. And from then on, I hid the fact that I watched Dragon Ball Z. I hid the fact that I played video games because unless you're playing Grand Theft Auto, it wasn't cool, and you would be bullied for it, right?
Yep.
And
No,
now
I think
because of that,
especially amongst
even when I do things that I enjoy, but I do it in public, I'm always like wary. I'm very self conscious. I think that's partly why I'm so afraid to dance, right? I'm genuinely so afraid to dance in front of people because I know that in my history, in my past, I would have been bullied for that. So it's the Pavlov's bell.
Well, and
thing,
this
right?
is the audience,
if
right?
if I dance, it is bad.
Of
right?
us and the people here, right? I think all of us understand that. Where I think most of us, especially our age groups, have seen times where doing something that wasn't necessarily mainstream at the time might have been considered something that people would point out and show as being different, right? Mm-hmm. Where today you can let your geek flag, fly pretty proud and not have it come back at you. But I'm of an age especially where being a geek back in the day was you were a nerd. And that was back when the movies like Revenge of the Nerds came out and stuff like that, where even the nerds, when they won, were still treated as the stereotypical crazy nerds, right? Like over the top, really crazy things. And so I understand the desire in many cases just to minimize or maybe not wear that on your sleeve as it is a little more easy to do today. Absolutely get it. I think most of us here understand that to some degree. It hurts me when it comes to like the dancing piece right there because I've run into that. I've told stories multiple times where I've run into situations where I've met people who basically talk about how men don't dance.
Yeah.
And it's not that they are uncomfortable dancing, or it's not that they don't feel skilled enough to dance. It's that in their mind, men do not dance, period. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy for me to hear people comment on things like that. That are just, they can't reconcile the two. That you can actually have both things happen and it's fine. And so it's so weird when I hear that. I've definitely run into it. And it was interesting when I was in Scotland hearing you advise me along that. And I was able to understand. And at least, cultures are different. But it's interesting. It is really interesting.
It's not acceptable, and it's something that I think has been getting better. And generally speaking, I think most educated people aren't like that. It's very much a lore. I mean, I don't want to make it a class issue because that's unfair. Because I know a lot of really good people who are lower class. I come from a family of lower class people. Right?
It's not that. It's education, but not necessarily book education. It's being able to critically
It's exposure to
think,
multiculturalism. Right? Yes, that's the key
look
thing.
Look beyond what you've been brought up with. So yes.
Yeah.
No. It's what we suffer. And unfortunately, it's still a real thing out there. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, it is about time for us to transition and take a break ourselves so that we can have time to refresh things and run to do a bio as needed and such for everyone out there. So thank you, everyone who's kept up and listened to us. Feel free during this break, as we'll get ready to transition over to more geeky things, to message us and email us in at showx@v2wproductions.com. We'd love to hear what geeky you've been up to as we get ready to talk about geek cred and stuff like that. Let's see, what else do I want to say? This song that I'm going to be playing is about 5 minutes long, so give yourself an extra minute. Oh, I know it was coming in my mind. As I'm trying to finish off this canteen of beverage I had over the weekend, this is the first thing I've had alcoholic since this weekend because I hurt myself Friday night.
Did you hurt your kidneys?
Waking up Saturday and sleeping throughout the evening, I knew I was going to be suffering yesterday a bit. And I was, because also altitude and alcohol and hiking. And I may or may not have had this canteen with me on my hike yesterday. To supplement the water I was drinking. But it definitely has impacted me a little bit yesterday. And now, as I'm consuming this again today, I'm realizing that, yes, it's not even been a full day. So that's a thing. Anyhow, we are going to take a break for about 5 minutes here. I'm playing a song here from was this Seiken Densetsu 3 from OC Remix. This one's called Surpassing the Gods. And so we're going to play this during the break. You feel free to email in the show, and we'll be back right after this. So you're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com, and we'll be back right after this.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. You're listening to Show X on BTWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. It is now time, unless you had anything you wanted to make sure you got back in there, Ken.
I don't think I had anything else.
Okay.
No, that was pretty much everything.
Are
Yep.
you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
All right, time for us for some geek cred as I hit the button prematurely. That's okay.
It's all right.
I was like,
It happens sometimes, man. Don't worry about it. Nothing to issue.
sorry, not used to that. But yes. And for those listening live and watching in as we're playing along with this, comment that came out there from Sarathis saying, wait, there's a BRB show logo now? Maybe worth us kicking things right off, talking a little bit about that, Ken?
I don't know what you're talking about. Clearly, that's a 404. No, okay. Okay, so we're actually talking about it now? Okay. So we know that you guys have been so helpful over the years. You've been supporting the show in a variety of manners with, getting your friends involved, but also, giving us tweets out and Facebook and such, and also supporting us financially. We always said that cash is always used for the show. We don't ever use it for anything else. And we had a little bit, sitting in the background because we pay our fees, we pay the servers, we pay off the software and all that. And then we often have some money left over. And sometimes we spend it on hardware or whatever. But right now, everything seems to be good on that end. So we were thinking about what to do. And we were originally thinking like Show 400 is a big thing. Maybe we could do it for that. And then we had this idea of, well, Show 404 for a nerdy show is kind of it's more of an appropriate kind of funny thing for this. So basically what we decided is, a lot of this stuff for the show has kind of been sitting stagnant for a while. We've had the same intro for a long time. We've had the same graphics for years. Perhaps it's time that we shake things up a little bit. So we took some of that cash we had and we hired a couple of graphic designers. And we've been looking into new intros. We're thinking about new segments and stuff like this. And a lot of it's still kind of in the design phases. But we do now have a couple new logos, some new transitory stuff in between, and we're looking to see what else we can do. And we're basically what we'd love to have is more audience feedback on what we're doing. If you guys like what you see, and if you have any particular ideas, because they might end up resounding with what we've already said, and we might go, "Yep, we're definitely going to follow that idea." Otherwise, we might not. So if you guys have any thoughts about what you want to see in the show, we want to keep the show title. We want to stay Show X. We don't want to move away from that. We want to really make the most of the Show X. Like what is X? We want it to be. That's what we want the theme to be. It's undefined. But we want to have some structure to the show. We don't want to be stuck in the same way we've been doing for years. We want to be able to just have a flow that we like from segment to segment, but as we go into different segments, like say we decide to talk about geeky stuff, maybe it's not planned at this time, but we can say, now we're talking geeky stuff, let's play the geeky stuff intro. People know what to expect from the segment, but we don't have to do it every week. Maybe next week we won't have it, and whatever, right? So, Wayne.
Yes, and so with that, and no Earthweaver, not happening. 404 is already happening, and that's not going to be what we do. But it's definitely a part of it where, this is episode 404 of just Show X itself. We've been around for years. In fact, it's funny because whenever I play the intro, the traditional intro you've all heard for years now that Ken was so generous to make, is that's something that he put together, and we have it labeled as Show X Intro 2012.
Yeah.
That's what that reaches back to. And so we're thinking maybe it's about time that we invested in doing something a little new. And for those of you who were here at the beginning of the show and saw our little our broken intro as I played it, something I admittedly came up with last night after the camping and the show and such, and felt like it was time to at least play a little bit. You saw some teases of some of the things we've been working on. Ken and I have had some conversations, and we're going to try to provide a few things to help continue to liven up the stream and provide a little more structure, a little more professionalism, things like that. We've invested. You hear us on our mics and our beautiful voices. You've seen the lighting and things they have. It's funny because actually one of the things I did while I was at DragonCon is they have podcasting tracks, and one of the ones I went to was it was all about Twitch streamers, and it was Twitch 102. things that you do after you've set up your stream, right? What do you do next and things like that. For us, it was really interesting for me when I went to that panel because we're not new booty, right? We are not trying to start broadcasting. We've been doing this for years. We've had multiple shows. We've done all kinds of different things. So for me, a lot of the feedback I got from these people who do some really amazing shows is honestly stuff we already know. We are very much on track. But at the same time, we also know our audience, and that being all of you who are listening. And so with that, we would love to hear more about what kind of things you would like us to cover. So our thought is to maybe, we like having our dysfunctional deviations, our geek cred, and our geekoscope, but we also thought it might be more appropriate to focus a little closer onto what specific subjects we're talking about. Because right now, the way we structure the show is Ken and I catch up for what we've been doing over the last week. We have our dysfunctional deviations. We talk about the things that aren't so geeky in the world, but in our lives. Then we transitioned into what we have been doing that's a little more geek, what games we've been playing, anything that we see that are movies or activities that are much more geek focused. And then we use whatever time we end up at the end of the show to talk about any burning news items and things that we've been seeing, especially focused on geek culture, gaming, technology, things like that. And we realized that our show tends to be very freeform. It's part of the reason that if people have found us, it's under the Just Chatting section now versus podcasting, because Ken and I we have a conversation. We just talk about whatever's there. Sometimes it's more specific about certain activities. Other times we will catch a subject of what's popular in the news today and we will go off. We have had those those shows, and they have been good times. And so our thought is we could still do all of that, but let's really encapsulate it into kind of those little specific segments. One of the ideas I've had, and curious if, again, the feedback, what you guys think. I love hearing some of Ken's stories that are related to all the misgivings or things he's had or misunderstandings with people that may be of the older generation. But coming up with a specific name for that, of something like Ken confuses old people, or Ken pisses off old people again.
Or Ken fights old people.
Right? And maybe just give it a little polish where we have, our good old Grandpa Hando going, Ken, you get off my lawn! And things like that, right? And so but ways that if you were to come into the show, you would know what it is we're talking about at that moment. So things like that, as well as like you saw, if you go and watch the intro, and I can show it again, the little break image that I had put up there. But this is where we paid artists to come and give us some look and feel for what it is the show may be doing. We have a few things to work on with that. But things like that we want to have so that you know what we're doing at all times. So, but yeah, just to kind of give you guys a heads up, we've also tried to focus a little more. We realize that VTW Productions, as much as that's been my baby for years, isn't really where Ken and I spend our effort. We do Show X, right? This is what we do. And VTW, while is still a very great gaming geek community, we have our Discord that people still jump in and play all the time. We've had Tabby and his group in there playing a lot of WoW, stuff like that. And we have everything from the Facebook groups and stuff like that. In fact, I think we now have 3 channels in Facebook. We have VTW Nerdery, VTW Gaming, and I think just the VTW production sites. Stuff where different groups are interacting all about geek. And that's wonderful and great. But we also realize that Ken and I spend our time each week presenting you guys with Show X. And so that's where we wanted to basically really focus some time and effort on. So expect to see more coming out. We've got some other ideas of just polish and stuff, and hopefully you guys appreciate it. So that's our thoughts as we go forward. This we want to do with 404 and show you that little bit of intro is kind of what I consider a soft launch. Just a little bit of an understanding, a heads up that things may change a bit. Hopefully it doesn't scare anybody. And with that you will hopefully see more new shiny things as we continue forward. I've got lots of ideas. Just got to have the time now that I'm done conning to do some of it. So that's what that's about. And feel free, if you have questions, to say it in the chat, or anything else you'd like us to address, just let us know. But yes, that is our initial thoughts, and we are very happy to hear from you. So thanks for that. And nice to see you jump in there, One True Villain, as I saw that come in. So thank you for that.
I was just laughing at Hando's comment there.
Hando's multiple comments? I can keep
that last one.
3D printers in the background, right? They can be running all the time. I need to actually design something that has musical 3D printing. So whatever design I'm printing sounds like an actual song based on the acceleration.
Yeah.
Instead of just the background noise it used to be.
So one of the segments we've been thinking about for a while, and this is actually not a new idea. This is one that we've had for some time. Is this idea of a research segment, and I maybe I dislike the word research because it feels a bit it's kind of incorrect to use that word.
Like
but
work?
basically, the idea is, yeah, and it's not people often use the word research to mean learn. That's not research, right? Research is new knowledge that's not yet been discovered. So we're not doing that. We're learning what already exists, but then maybe sharing it because we have an interest and a passion in these things. For example, right now I've been reading a lot of books on Marxism
Whoa.
and on Stoic philosophy. Yeah.
Hold up. They're saying show stopped. Is it? Oh, weird.
Oh, it has. Yeah.
What? What?
That's strange because we still hear each
Yeah,
other.
nothing on. Well, so on my end, it still says that it's streaming. And so.
Is it Twitch? Yeah, saying live still. Let me check the YouTube. YouTube says we're
Weird.
live.
YouTube says we're live. Twitch is the one that I think it's freaking out on. Let's see.
Dang it, YouTube's not actually loading. It just says we're live.
Okay.
Oh,
Well.
no, it is. We are live on YouTube. I'm listening to myself speak now.
Huh. YouTube likes us. Let's see.
Yeah, they're saying this must be part of their 404 shtick, right?
Weird. I've not seen that happen before. Let's see. Play. It seriously on Twitch says we're offline.
Yeah, well, no, Twitch says we're online. It says live. But yeah, it's definitely Twitch. It's not on our end. We can hear each other. Our internets, both of our internets are fine. It's going to YouTube. Twitch is the one that's playing naughty.
So I will stop and start it again just to be sure.
Sure. Probably wise.
Let's see.